2 hours ago, the White House authorized what Pentagon officials are calling the most consequential military strike since the Iraq invasion. American F-35 stealth fighters, supported by B-2 Spirit bombers and cruise missiles launched from Navy destroyers in the Persian Gulf, struck 3 Iranian nuclear facilities simultaneously. Natanz enrichment complex, Fordow underground bunker, Arak heavy water reactor. The targets were eliminated with surgical precision. The justification came from Israeli intelligence delivered to Washington 72 hours earlier. Iran had crossed the 90% uranium enrichment threshold. Technical analysis confirmed Tehran was now less than 3 weeks from producing weapons-grade fissile material. The red line that 3 administrations had drawn was not just crossed, it was obliterated. Except the threat was not neutralized. It was redirected. Exactly 94 minutes after American bombs destroyed Iranian nuclear infrastructure, a different kind of destruction began. Not against military targets. Against the economic jugular of the entire Gulf region. The first impact hit Saudi Aramco's Abqaiq processing facility, the largest oil processing complex on Earth. 5 cruise missiles, launched from positions inside Iraq by Iranian-backed Kataib Hezbollah, struck critical infrastructure with devastating accuracy. Abqaiq processes 7 million barrels of crude oil daily, roughly 5% of global supply. Within minutes, satellite imagery confirmed fires raging across the facility. Processing capacity dropped to 0. Before Washington could process what was happening, the second wave began. The Jebel Ali Port in Dubai, one of the world's busiest shipping terminals, came under drone attack. Not 1 or 2 drones. A swarm of 15 Shahd 136 kamikaze drones struck fuel storage tanks and container terminal infrastructure. The port handles over 15 million containers annually. Operations ground to a halt as emergency crews battled fires across multiple sectors. Then came the strike that sent oil markets into absolute panic. Kuwait's Mina Al-Ahmadi oil terminal, responsible for exporting 1.5 million barrels daily, absorbed multiple ballistic missile hits from Iranian-designed Fatah 110 systems launched from southern Iraq. The terminal's loading infrastructure was completely destroyed. Tankers waiting offshore had nowhere to dock. 3 targets. 3 countries. 94 minutes. This was not random retaliation. This was calculated economic warfare designed to inflict maximum pain while maintaining just enough deniability to avoid triggering Article 5 NATO response. Within 2 hours, Iran's foreign ministry issued a statement that was almost poetic in its precision. The Islamic Republic does not direct the operations of independent resistance movements across the region. However, we acknowledge that those who defend their nations against aggression will respond to aggression in kind. Iran's nuclear program was for peaceful purposes. Those who destroyed it must now explain to their allies why Gulf oil flows have stopped. Plausible deniability wrapped in a threat. But Pentagon intelligence tells a different story. Intercepted communications confirm that Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force commanders pre-authorized these strikes at least 96 hours before the American attack even occurred. The cruise missiles were pre-positioned. The drone swarms were fueled and programmed. The ballistic missile launchers were in firing positions. Iran knew the nuclear strike was coming and had prepared a response that would make Washington's victory Pyrrhic at best. The market reaction was catastrophic. Brent crude spiked 34% to $142 per barrel. Energy futures went into chaos as traders processed that 8.5 million barrels of daily production, nearly 8% of global supply, had vanished. American gasoline futures jumped 28%. European gas prices surged. The global economy suddenly faced an energy crisis worse than 2022. Here is what has the White House in crisis mode. Trump expected Iranian retaliation against military targets. U.S. bases were reinforced. Patriot batteries activated. Naval assets positioned. But Iran attacked the economic infrastructure of America's Gulf allies, creating disaster without giving Washington a clear military target to retaliate against. Saudi Arabia faces its worst energy crisis since the 1970s. The UAE's economy, dependent on Jebel Ali Port, faces billions in losses. Kuwait's oil exports are completely halted. All three nations are questioning whether American security guarantees are worth the economic devastation. Within hours, the Saudi Crown Prince reportedly told American officials, "You promised us Iran would be deterred. Instead, you gave them an excuse to destroy our economy while your bases sit untouched." That statement represents the collapse of a 7-decade security architecture. The geopolitical implications are devastating. Within 24 hours, China announced it would increase oil purchases from Iran, effectively nullifying American sanctions. Russia offered to help rebuild Iranian nuclear facilities using harder-to-destroy technology. Turkey called for an emergency NATO meeting questioning whether the strikes were authorized. Even Israel faces blowback. Hezbollah announced that if Iranian scientists were killed, Israel's Dimona nuclear facility would be considered a legitimate target. That threat, from an organization with 150,000 rockets, cannot be dismissed. So where does this leave Trump? He has 3 options, and every one of them leads somewhere worse than where he started. Option 1. Strike Iranian territory directly. Hit Revolutionary Guard bases, Quds force centers, maybe Iranian oil infrastructure. But that risks counter-retaliation shutting down the entire Strait of Hormuz, taking another 17 million barrels offline. Oil would hit $200 within days. Recession within weeks. Option 2. Absorb the damage and declare nuclear victory while negotiating compensation for Gulf allies. But that makes the US look unable to protect partners. Every nation learns American guarantees come with devastating costs. Option 3. Immediate de-escalation, lift sanctions in exchange for Iran restraining proxies. Strategically sound. Politically impossible. The president who bombed Iranian facilities cannot offer concessions 48 hours later. 2 hours ago, the White House thought it was eliminating an existential nuclear threat. 2 hours later, global oil markets are in chaos, America's Gulf allies are questioning the value of the security relationship, and Iran has demonstrated that asymmetric economic warfare can be more devastating than any military response. Trump wanted to prove that nuclear red lines are absolute. Instead, he proved that in modern warfare, the most powerful military on Earth can still lose when the enemy refuses to fight on conventional terms. The nuclear facilities are destroyed. But the cost of that victory is just beginning to emerge. And right now, with oil platforms burning across the Gulf and gasoline prices spiking across America, Washington has absolutely no answer for what comes next.